This is your weekend market recap for Friday, January 13th, 2023.
Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well.
This is Dan Max at XP Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your weekend market recap for Friday, January 13th, 2023. Hopefully you had a good week. Pretty interesting week. One week where I would say that, pretty good trading for earlier in the week, underwater and a little bit of shorts at this point, but full transparency as always. Patience, layering in, and using sentiment, the gauges for which others are losing their emotions, losing their mind, being emotional, is one of the triggers that we look for, and price action potentially for topping. And I always tell people this all the time: if you expect V tops, V bottoms, one touch and then goes, that's usually not the position. So if you were deciding to either enter in long or short, either way, you should always be thinking of a layering strategy and knowing the levels for which to act. Because one of the things that I think is very difficult sometimes with trading is seeing the levels, acting on it, and it not going in your direction right away. I think a lot of people struggle with that. And so with the market at where it's at right now, I feel more confident that there's probably going to be more of a pullback probably next week into OPEX. How deep, how strong, we'll talk about it, the exact levels. But at this point, if you have any questions, please reach out. I appreciate all the love, support, the donations. I mean, people have been very generous, and you know what, in the end, the goal is just education in itself, and it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be free, because one of the things that everything in life is an information game, right? And so you have to learn from somebody, or you have to do a ton of research to figure it out on your own. And your tuition bill will be expensive as hell in trading. Mine was. Anyway, Discord room, again, it's open for a few more days. At this point, if you're not involved, and again, there's new folks. I don't know why you're joining the room and not get involved, because the algorithm's going to kick you out for not posting. It'll downgrade your status. Anyway, Twitter. Again, this is where we're posting a lot of what's going on, trying to keep people informed of how we looked at things. I mean, talked about the market today. The only thing that's really crashed, I kind of was laughing when Sven said this, in 2023 has been the VIX, agreed. And we've had some pretty strong up days in a row, coming into some levels that matter. Please, if you want to hit me up, messages. If you're newer to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do a ton of live chats. But here's the gold. It's funny. I mean, I look at some of the stuff and I'm like, all right, 127 views. It's like, how have only 127 people, let's update this, that I know who were involved in this channel not watch this? But hey, that's all right. I mean, it's one of those things. Everyone wants to hit home runs and grand slams, but no one wants to go into the batting cage and practice their swing. I get it. Is what it is. Don't be surprised when the market seems harder than it is, because just, you got to get educated on it. There's so many little things that make the market move, and the action and the goals of the market makers and the retail, the psychology. Again, 95% of traders fail. It's not because the trading is really exceptionally hard. It's just exceptionally mentally taxing. So we talk about mental capital versus, your physical capital that you're making. Anyway, let's just jump into it. Bitcoin. Hey-o. All right. Congratulations. Again, someone was asking earlier in the week about, buying, selling this. And again, same thing I'm going to say for gold. Like, you have to trade assets, because you never know when the bull market ends for an asset. Now, again, some markets are easier to predict longer term, potentially. But keep in mind, remember, 2017 to 2020, Bitcoin went nowhere. And so what I potentially could see is that Bitcoin just chopping around here. Now, again, if there's a floor, great. Trade it. More you're up, less you own. If this breaks over this downtrend, now I know it technically is, let me just really dial it in. You're right at it, essentially, right? Could it go slightly higher? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this area down here, we talk about high volume highs, high volume lows, love to retest. Well, look at the 20,000 plus area. I mean, could you 21,000? Yes. I mean, ultimately at this point, Bitcoin has done this a lot, where it gets into these consolidating patterns before going lower. Now, the amplitude, what we talk about, like rubber band man theory, like the more you get stretched out, the less amplitude potential of stretching. So down move, bigger, smaller, 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 smallish, right? And now, is it breaking out, going higher? We'll see. I mean, we will see, my friends. At this point, if you've been long, congratulations. Absolutely. I mean, I still pray for incredibly higher prices for friends that own this stuff. But at this point, we'll see what happens. Remember, everything's meant to be traded. It's called trading. It's not called holding. Sorry. It's called holding. Holding on the offense. Illegal defense on the... you know what I mean. Anyone watching football this weekend? Yeah. No doubt. Oil. All right. Okay. Not surprised that back up towards the 80 level. Remember, we talked about the first dip we get bought. All right, you're back here. At this point, remember, oil is going to be the monster wild card for the Feds, right? Because if oil starts ripping higher, Feds and inflation and CPI coming down, wrong. That's not going to happen. Keep an eye on this, right? You know, again, I mean, I still think at some point, I don't know, next week, next month, whatever, this quarter, at some point when the market rises to smash, you will have a ton of buyers, I assume, in this mid-60s level. So, trade it. Man, why is everything but a Bitcoin? Sadly. We need some natural gas. No, actually, hold on. I apologize. Cat is in my lap. She is rather interested in this conversation. I think she's like, Dad, you're down a little today. Are you frustrated? You need some love? No, I'll survive. Nat gas. And I've said this, I mean, I think I've said it probably 100,000 times in the last 10 recaps. No, I'm just kidding. Talked about teardrops. This is hard. I mean, nat gas, and I said look to the left. Is this going to play out? Remember, this is January of last year. We'll see. I mean, repeating patterns. Like nat gas, man, nat gas is just so tough. I mean, bottom, and again, it looks like it tries to bottom around late January. I mean, that's, again, here's the thing. If you like the levels, it's just like Bitcoin or whatever. I mean, anything that's coming down and basing, just make sure you get in at the lows. Please don't chase that crap. And when I say that crap, like anything, like just don't chase. I mean, if there's one thing that you can get out of all these videos that'll help you be a better trader, is just never chase. Let prices come to you. Because I told people, please do not short the open in the market today. And the SPY was down, you know, whatever, down towards 393, 394. I'm like, please, for the love of God, don't short. Please don't short. Please don't short. And of course, somebody's like, well, what do I do now? And it's like, you should just not short. Just let the market come to you. Dollar. This is getting real interesting down here. I've said this many times that, you know, we talked about it dying and it finding a base down here at some point. Now you're at the big longer term trend line. Let me just edit this. Man, cat, you are just purring so loud. I'm not really a cat person, but this cat is growing on me. She's a sweetheart. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know how I like to do box trend lines. I mean, we're at points which make sense. 50% fib. Let me zoom out again. I guess you got this gap in this area. Let's see if we got... you have to go back on the weekly. I was going to say, here you go. I think the worst case scenario, if you really think that the dollar could go lower, it's probably going to be down into that range. I apologize for the sloppy charts when I zoom out, but that's... I mean, I don't think we'll slam right through that. In my highest, humblest opinion of the market, I don't think it'll slam through it. I think it would hold down here. And if anything, we might probably hold here, and we could pop and then drop later. Remember, as I've said it, like my bearish position near term in the market is just predicated on overbought conditions, frothiness, people getting silly, stupid, like the trash floating higher. I mean, what was it, like Bed Bath & Beyond up 30% yesterday? Like that kind of stuff doesn't happen at lows. It happens at highs. Remember, because think about sentiment. Like people are like, oh, the market's, you can't lose in the market again. And that's exactly when the rug gets pulled. TLT, we talked about it. You know, could it get back up here 200-day 0.618? Okay. I mean, I personally have said 1,000 times, like bonds got murdered last year. If inflation's coming down, which again, is it only temporary? Then I expect bonds to just play in a tight range. I don't think we're gonna make new highs in the yields, and I don't think we're gonna make we're not getting back to 4%. So if you see bond yields in the 5s, low 6s, maybe 4s, but nothing crazy. The VIX, now this is again why people are like, oh, why are you getting bearish? Well, holy crap. I mean, we haven't seen VIX this low since March, right? Or April. Now, again, the VIX could go much lower. It could go down to 15. It could go down to 16, 17. I mean, is the bear market over? I mean, that's what it seems like now. People are screaming. Bear market's over. Seasonality is typically bullish, which we talked about. That's why, I mean, keep in mind, remember who was telling you the market was going to try to resolve upward to chop since December. You're welcome. I'll give myself a pat on the back because nobody was thinking. Everyone's like, oh, this VIX is breaking out. Bear market's game on. I'm like, nah, I think we're going to crap out. And we've been actually playing long the market until literally the last 2 days, shorting. So just keep that in mind. Now the VIX down here, it just makes sense. Just be careful, though. If a lot of people go, oh, I'm looking at puts. Everyone's buying puts. Well, keep in mind, remember, if retail's buying puts, fine. But if the actual institutions are buying puts, that's a hedge, right? So, again, that's all. I mean, at this point, OPEX, CHOPEX next week. Be on the red alert. Trade around even your short positions. If you have a few points you're up on, don't get comfortable with it. SPY. I'm rather impressed by today's action, but I'm also not, like, that impressed. Like, I'm not surprised, right? Like, we gap down and we close right back at the highs. Okay. I mean, that happens. I mean, I think people just don't really understand sometimes, like, the market just does that, right? Like, it plays games, gap down and closes back. Gaps down, closes back, right? Like, it typically can happen nearer the highs, right? Here you go. Opens down, closes right back up. So, gaps down, opens up. I mean, typically this pattern, it's the same thing at tops, right? Like you open high, close low, open high, close low, potentially near the bottoms at inflection points. Is this an inflection kind of like repeating pattern? People are like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, like that's what happens, right? You open, close low, open, close low, open, close low, but this is an inflection area. Could we be starting to do that here? That's what I'd watch out for 200-day. Now, if it keeps going, which, I mean, this is the thing about humility, it could absolutely happen. I mean, I've said this is the thing. I think a pullback, and here let's talk about where I'm thinking. It makes sense to me. This 100-day cross, maybe 390 down to 386. 387. I mean, I'd love 380s. I mean, again, I don't think, because what you could argue if it does that is a big W pattern, right? Like that's what people might see, and then they go bull market game on, and then maybe you get to like 420, and then, but that would be a pretty sweet W pattern to trade, and that base obviously would be rather frustrating. But as I've said this many times, I don't think the market has velocity potential that to go super high, but I also don't see it getting absolutely slam danced. I don't see us breaking new lows. I just don't see that right now. Because again, based on what everything, remember, keep on, the market's really good at pricing in what it knows. Unless something out of nowhere came. Some sort of currency crisis, Ukraine, inflammation. Take some aspirin. I mean, just in general, you know what I mean? So that's the thing. I think it's going to be a trader's market. And a lot of people are like, well, I thought this was a trader's market. I'm talking about like trader's market. And I'll show you here in a second what I'm talking about with the IWM, because IWM went nowhere for like 12 months in 2021. QQQ got up to the 100-day 280. Talked about that being possibly the resistance. The trash is floating up, right? I could argue this is maybe a W. I don't know. It feels kind of like this junk, right? Look at this. You had a pop. You came down. You chopped. And then eventually resolved higher. I mean, is it come down, chop, pop, chop, maybe resolve higher, but along the way, chop, chop. I personally have said this 1,000 times. I mean, tech is going to lose it's lost its momentum. Again, people think they think low stock prices mean stocks have to come back higher. And it's like, no. If you've been trading stocks for a long period of time, once something loses that's premium momentum, it doesn't come back. Well, the whole NASDAQ, for the most part, every stock in it was like that. That momentum is not coming back. Tesla is not getting back to 400 by the end of the year. I mean, I'd be impressed if it's actually over 200 by the end of the year. So at this point, watch. Speaking of chop, chop, slap, chop, slap, chop. You remember the slap, chop? Here's what I'm talking about. Look at this for the IWM. It was all seasonally based. It's pretty wild. Right? Remember how I talk about pulling back? So here you go. Here's your January pullback. You rallied. You pulled back. Remember I always talk about like there's usually a March pullback. You got double bottom, and then it played the game where it didn't go anywhere during the summer, just playing around, sell in May, went away, rallied into the June earnings, sideways, dropped. I mean, I know people don't want to hear that, but I think that's probably what's going to happen this year. It's just going to be this. And so now if you go look back at the IWM now, you go, okay, well, what's the upside? I mean, I think you could trade between 190 and 162 all year long, and that would just blow people's minds. But it wouldn't blow mine. I mean, I've seen this crap before. And maybe we break low. Again, and this is the thing. If you're a long-term bull, you want the worst news out. You want, like, everything to implode. You want the final price action that's necessary to blow out the market. Because then after that, you can rebuild and start a bull market while everything's bearish. Like, think in mind, like, the economy didn't bottom until 2011, 2010, but the stock market bottomed in March 2009. Same kind of thing. Like, we need bad. Like, I want the worst to be priced in. The market's very good at pricing in what it knows. So at this point, IWM, yeah, we talk about it leading and lagging. I mean, maybe it has a little more to go. Again, that's the thing about layering into shorts. Like, you don't just sit here and go, oh, I have to get all of it right here, because that would have hurt in gold. If I went all in short yesterday, near, I think we got 176, 177, added a little bit today, 178. I've got options too. I got some really cheap puts where if they go by, I don't care. That's part of my risk actually as well. And I've got a couple weeks out on those puts. But now we're getting up into levels where, again, I mean, remember we talked about the straight line move typically precedes the pullback. And even if it's just a pullback like here, because gold went from 150 up to 165, and then it pulled back approximately 4 points. Well, now you've gone 161 up to 178 due to pullback. Now I'm not expecting the crash. I mean, my puts are the 180s. I'm just trying to get in the money, and if it pulls back, cool. Not too concerned in the sense of if I'm wrong, people are like, oh, you've traded gold. You say you're always great. I'm like, no. Gold is one of the hardest assets to trade. I have done very well with gold when I lost my ego and just said, you know what, it always can't go higher and it always won't go lower. Well, here you go. You just trade it. And here, we pulled back, talked about it. Now, at this point, this is exhaustive. Straight line move, even if it's just a pullback, it wouldn't be that unhealthy. Again, I've got physical, ultimately, and hopefully you do too. But this is not sustainable. Straight line moves do not lead to unfettered straight line moves forever. It's like no one's buying out gold. The GLD ain't getting bought out. Remember, this is the commodities market. Silver, okay. It was lagging, hence why we thought about shorting gold. Because, again, I get a lot of people who are just get very emotional when I post, I'm shorting gold. You can't short it. And it's like, okay. Well, I've also bought it when everyone was like, you can't buy it. And it's like, okay, I get it. The more you guys scream and yell, the more confident I typically am, because the people who are the most emotional seem to be the biggest losers. I used to be that guy. Did you? Are you? This looks interesting. Let's see what happens here. I don't really have much to say. Bought some dust today. God, I got, was it 1140, 11? Let me look at the price action. I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me. Down on it, definitely. Not up, that's for sure. Bought it. I think I got 1,000 shares of dust somewhere in the mid to low 11s. Just kept kind of adding a little taste here, a little taste there. GDX, okay. I mean, you're coming into the next resistance. Could we, for a fact, get into this box up in the 33? Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I just moved the whole damn box. My bad. There you go. It's possible. Now again, people are like, why would you be early? Well, here's the thing. When you go small, you can be early, right? You can. And here's the thing too. People don't realize, remember this. This thing ran up into OPEX and then got slammed last year, and it was nothing wrong with it because then it went on the big run. Well, what if it just pulls right back to 28? Maybe this trend line. I don't know. It's, again, straight line moves. You got to be nervous because even this gets a pullback. That gets a pullback. it's just, again, I'm not anticipating gold or the miners, unless the market gets smoked, to really just get absolutely implode. And I hope that helps. And I've said it over and over. GDXJ, I mean, yeah, you got a little bit of a, check this out. You can see it when you zoom. You got a little bit of like a shoulder line there. So we'll see. Either way, I always tell people, sometimes you go lower before you go higher, kind of like blow out the range. Well, could this be a blowout higher to go lower? I don't know. But everybody yelling that gold's going higher and screaming it and believing it, that makes me nervous. That makes me real nervous. AG, I mean, like the stock is like pretending that silver is not doing well. Keep an eye on that. Like, that's scary to me. I mean, haven't looked at Silge in a while. Okay, that's good. That's good for the silver miners. Oh, yeah, I mean, you're not that far off. All right, anyway. AEM. AEM. Yeah, holding up. I mean, this is the thing. Like, gold's going bonk. I guess gold's up $30, $40 an ounce this week, and this stuff is just flatlining. Why would the miners flatline if gold's going to go in fuego? Right? Don't you think Nomont would be up like $5 this week? Now, here you go. I told you 200 day would probably be the easiest short. You see why I'm buying dust today, right? Makes sense? I hope so. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be... I try to be as transparent as possible. I lose money. You're going to lose. Let's just try to not shorten down here, right? Pass. Probably just leave it alone. All right, techers. Tech. AMD, kind of sideways here at the 100-day. You're welcome. We talked about it could pop from here. I thought this was a trap. Remember, I just said, literally, sometimes you go lower before you go higher. Kind of play the trap. Sometimes you go, like, retest or you go higher. Here's again, multiple retest. And then it goes. You know, it looks like it's going to struggle with the 71s. We'll see what happens. NVIDIA, because I think the SMH, same thing, is going to get tired. Breaking over the 200-day, I mean, I would really love to see that for the short. But I don't get to make good choices. I don't choose. TSM, talked about this, shorted this today, shorted this yesterday. Trying to get as much near 87 as possible. Even 86. I mean, I think this is a novice gap. I don't think this is going to continue on. If anything, it just goes sideways or it's going to poo-poo. It's SMH, this is one of the reasons. Again, the SMH coming into resistance, old back test of a trend line. Could the SMH go slightly higher? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But again, when the VIX goes down into the 18s and the market goes straight line move-ish, I mean, does it have to resolve down that minute, that hour, that day? No, I've seen it not. I've seen it sometimes culminate with slightly higher highs or chop around and then go. Just keep that in mind. Adobe. Remember, Monday is closed. Chopping, nothing really to say. Apple, you would think the market on fire this week. Apple not leading. Now, again, you can say that's a good close, but remember, I mean, the SPY and IWM are like going higher, and this is just like barely off the lows. This is interesting. Amazon, we bought this, sold it. Today's action, I mean, that's not bad for Amazon. I like this on pullbacks. I've said watch what happens here in the the low 90s. I would probably take a stab back at that because I think you could get up to the 105s. I mean, there is a resistance zone. I would take that. But I don't want to chase it. But if it goes, it goes. I mean, it's just part of the game. Like, do you see how like calm and trying to stay emotionless I am? Because that's how you have to be. You just can't sit here and let the candles and everything around you just work you up. CRM, yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I kind of wish, I don't know. I just kind of wish that the markets were easy for everyone. It's just not. I mean, it's not even for me. I mean, you have to be a student of the game. You got to love the challenge. You're going up against the smartest and most intelligent people in the world, trying to outsmart them. So, anyway, at this point, hold on real quick. Keep an eye. 100-day. Sorry, I got distracted. Guggenheim, not again. Some of the internals today don't really look that great. You would think this would be up like $3. No, 50-day. Meta, I was thinking this would be up like at least another $1 or $2. It's getting stuck at resistance. Those are good signs if you're a bear. Microsoft, stuck under the 50-day. That's a good sign. NDAQ, bleh. You know, come on, get higher, you son of a biscuit. MicroStrategy. All right, if Bitcoin's rising, I mean, again, we talked about you could buy this in the 130s, 140s. You're welcome. Did not see it going that high, but either way, I mean, you made 40, 50 points. And again, if you trade around your position or you just, the more it's up, less you own, you still did well. But I would consider this trash. Trash is floating, right? Netflix, talked about it. Somebody was asking to short this earlier in the week, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, don't short this. Wait till you're up in the upside target zone. Well, you're up there now. See what happens. Roblox, we sold it. We bought and sold this. I mean, good trade. 3-day range just getting tight. I don't hate that 3-day range, but you don't know. It's like an island floating top of toppers, It could flop. Just keep that in mind. Tesla, another thing. Hey, Tesla, shouldn't you be up 5 points today? 10 points maybe? No. Nope. So, on that note, be careful. I mean, tech is just, man, people don't realize how bad tech gets. Letter X. X gonna give it to you. You would think this would be up today. No. Inside day. I mean, I think the materials names are about to take a rest, a recreo, a break. Nucor getting to the top of its range. Not surprised by this. Not surprised. I mean, we talked about you could have bought this at 130. 130s. Nice run. Excellent run. VALE. Again, this is why people are like, how are you bullish when everyone was bearish? And now I'm starting to turn bearish when everyone's bullish. Like, this is kind of how it always works. Now you're getting, like, smaller moves, amplitude getting stuck inside. Remember, all these tech names not really looking that great. Arrow. Okay, up another 1%, but that candle could be an outside, like, reversal candle. Keep that in mind. CCJ, you would think this would be up. No. Getting tight up here. Don't know yet. CF, I'm happy for CF. Again, I'm out. I'm like, have this, like, secret fetish that I hope it gets pounded and smashed down to the floor, and then I'll pick it right back up in the 80s, low 80s. Mosaic, man, this thing was acting like crap all day. I'm kind of feel good about it, but it did hold the 20-day and this old trend line. So, yeah, I mean, just again, it's like hard to be short and long here when the evidence starts to feel more bearish to me. Again, NTR, you would think this would be higher. Alcoa, on the other hand, a little bit of remorse selling it. But whatever. I mean, it's 41 up to the 50s. Low 50s, but not a bad trade, especially if you did it. Financials. Oops. I like the FAS short around 95, but again, obviously the financials went a little higher. Remember, this thing is decaying, so if you want to short that, that's right. I am short a little bit of SPY through the SPXL short. Remember, I love shorting leverage ETFs. XLF, open low, close high. Not surprised. You also have this target range. I mean, I highly doubt. Let's just move it to actually, let's be legit. Too legit to quit. Hi. There it is. I don't see this breaking out, but I do see a broadening pattern, which could take you back to the highs. Or this is like a little trappy trap. Remember, how you... I'm trying to think of, like, where's a good one for the bulls and bears. I'm not really seeing it at the moment, but there's a repeating trap pattern that does this sometimes. Near the highs, you get, like, increased volatility even though the VIX comes down. Somebody knows something, because, again, it wouldn't have opened down low if it was really that bad. JP Morgan, nice rally. Did not short this today. I just didn't have a chance to, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, ooh. 0.618, opens low. I mean, this is a wide and loose candle. Preceding direction change, potentially. Preceding direction change, right? You get like not super wide and loose, but typically that's the thing, right? Big candles, big emotions. I'm curious to see how this lines up. Morgan Stanley said I wanted to short this last week, or not last week, but yesterday. Again, I got caught doing a bunch of work today. I didn't get back to the computer the last hour. I'm like, you know what? If the market closes at the highs, I'm not going to add to shorts. The only thing I shorted was a SPY. We'll see. Because again, I mean, I just want to give myself time just in case I'm earlier wrong. I would watch that. Anyway, XBI. Again, this thing, you would think this thing would be up, but I guess it had a decent day yesterday. That doesn't look that good. Did it really print 90 today? 89.63? I guess so. Yeah, that's not a good candle with high volume, guys. That is not a good candle, because that is an outside potential reversal like candle. Trying to find it. Let's see if we can find one at a low. The long wick and changing, or at a high. not a long enough wick. Bernie's Wickerstaff. He's a great NBA coach. No, Bernie Bickerstaff. Okay, here's the one that's a long wick reversal candle. I mean, that's an outside reversal bottom. Whatever. There you go. Even if it's just temporary. That's interesting to me. Saw that today. Tan. Solar. Man, everyone's going to be like, oh, you're the idiot. Okay, here we go with solar. I mean, looking at this area, it's like, I think it's not going to... I mean, again, you go from... This stuff is up 12% for the week almost, or whatever, 10 days. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 days. Okay. Is it because we're getting rid of stoves? I don't think so. Talked about ENPH. What did I say? Watch what happens at 200-day. Now, again, being a popular... sorry, not popular, but a volatile stock. Funny how it closed right on it. Sedge, we've talked about this one holding up better. Okay, well, it gets right back into the blue box. First solar, now I know here I'm short, I'm early, I get it. Layer in. That candle was ominous. This one was kind of shitty. This one is not great either. Stock just went from 140 up to 181, 183. That, either way, I mean, worst case, you're going to get like this. And this was, again, 161 down to 144, 15-point pullback. I'm looking for the 160s. I wouldn't be surprised. But I also could be wrong. I mean, here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. Stocks that are volatile, stocks that trades that you're in when you're wrong, like know your absolute cost loss, like what you're willing to lose, and then just stick to it. And if you have to come back, you have to come back. And this is why sometimes my options account is not as lucrative at times, because I'll hold options and just be like, all right, well, it's, you know, the risk is 500 shares through 5 options, and if it blows out, those blow out. You know, I define my risk versus going big in stock, and sometimes that's the best thing. Like, all right, I'm willing to lose $2,500 versus buy, you know, do hundreds of shares and just get caught in gaps or get in traps, because that happens a lot. So, I mean, that's just, I try to explain this to people, but it's not easy. Everyone's different. Some people just don't want to lose it all, and they'll set a tight stop and be gone, while other people like myself who've been caught in traps and seen a million things, sometimes you give yourself the room because you enter in smaller, or you're patient. XOP, or sorry, oil, my bad. Okay, cool. Getting back up to near the range highs for recent. That's cool. I mean, again, I've said oil and gas is like wheat versus cotton in the Livermore thing. Cotton sucked, wheat was great. And here's your cotton. Bold strategy, cotton. Said leave the UNG alone. Got no love for it. Now, I've said maybe when everyone says the UNG sucks and the internet officially bans it, maybe then I would buy it. Just that ETF sucks ass. It's just ass. It's like anyone see a lot of y'all know I'm Philadelphia Eagles fans. What's the I think it was it Brian Dawkins, or it was somebody, an ex-Philadelphia guy doing Fox Sports News, and he was like, they're asking about Dak Prescott, and he was like, he's just ass. He's ass. That's all he is. He's like, he's throwing interceptions and he's just ass. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Talked about the 200-day and the 0.382 acting as resistance. See what happens. He's just ass. ExxonMobil, you would think today would be up, right? No, doji indecision. Need more information, right? Occidental, I was like, man, I was looking at these names like, why are they not rising? Down to flat. PXD, I remember down, it was down like 3 or 4 points, and then just basically flat. Nah. EQT flat. Nah. Not that great. All right. If you got any questions, please reach out. Please, if you're here to troll, talk junk, I love it. I really don't care. I use, a lot of you guys know me. I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me. However, it does allow me to read sentiment, because the most emotionally loud people who are never going to be successful in trading, the ones who are like constantly going nuts. Because again, I mean, nobody's sitting there when you mess up yelling at you going, oh, you idiot. No. But you also don't have a following, because no one will follow you because you don't actually execute well or give real much any like content that's worth following. A lot of people always want to be like social media traders. I'm like, it's hard. People are always on your butt. But one of the things that I love about it is that when people are the most emotional, I pay attention to it, because I want to see the emotions at extremes, right? Like the average, it's hard to be weathered down to the point where you've just seen so much pain and chaos and frustration through the markets that you kind of learn to expect it all, and you've been through it. So you don't really get up and down. And to see the folks that act like that, you're like, okay, something to be learned here. Like, because we've talked about this a lot. At major inflection points, the most green and novice, fake traders yell the happiest and the loudest, right? At the lows, the world's gonna end. At the highs, new bull market. So, if you have any questions, please reach out. Also, to real estate, I'm telling you, starting to see pick up. Had a deal. We missed a deal. Listen to this. It's on the market for 6 months. Last weekend, the property, we went to see it. We're going to make an offer, 20 grand under. It ended up going 20 grand over and getting multiple offers. I'm telling you right now, real estate in good areas is not going to stay down. You wish for pullbacks. It's kind of like buying a pullback in your favorite long-term, again, index. And you're just like, well, I'll wait for a little more, and I'll wait for a little more. But then ultimately the indexes always go higher. Well, that's the same thing with housing in good areas. You wait for the pullback, and then you don't act. And then it just goes, and it just goes, and it just goes. So hit me up if you got any questions, because, again, I think there might be a window here where you get some lower rates and house discounts that might lead to longer-term wealth and passive income, because you might be, honestly, able to hit home runs. Because for a fact, rental values, again, remember, if people aren't buying, rents go up. And if people are buying, then your property equity will go up, and at least your rental stabilize, even or go up. Rents are not going down, in my opinion, especially in the good areas. If you want to live in Denver, good luck. You want to live on the coast, you want to live in certain places, good luck. All right, here to help. Appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Hit me up if you got any questions. May the force be with you. Peace.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.